arriving. We've got some exciting things to have a go at today and have a bit of a discussion on. All right, so just wait a couple more seconds. We've got people still arriving. Yeah, good. All right, now, what we're going to do, I'm going to jump into the screen. All right, we'll jump into the window. More app. And I'm going to go to the site. Well, I say, hopefully I am. Yes, I am. The site that I gave you access to the other day. Was it yesterday? Before? Whenever it was. All right, now, my plan for this is for this to then become a one-stop shop, all right, which means anything and everything to do with the IBIA for economics, I'm wanting to put in here, all right? Now, I haven't thrown a whole lot of old materials in there because it's a new syllabus. I do have a lot of other slides and documents and exemplars, but to be perfectly honest, they're all based on the old syllabus. So I can put them in as well if you feel that there is more needed. But what I've got at the moment, I think is quite streamlined and quite useful and hopefully easy to work your way around. I don't know if you've already had a look at the particular title. I don't. It's okay if you haven't. We're going to do it now. Right. So specific requirements and objectives. All right. So there's some preamble about why we do IAs. This is very IB. It's in the syllabus. We know that. Now, what you have to do. This is point number 2. What you have to do. All right. Both HL and SL. There's very little difference between the two of you. You both need to produce, 2 groups of you, a portfolio that has 3 commentaries. Now, when we say commentary, it's an academic explanation, all right, based on articles from published news media, all right. So each article is going to be on a different unit within the syllabus, all right. All right, so you can't do unit 1, okay, but unit 2, unit 3, and unit 4. So that's what we're going to end up with. The easiest way to do this is to do 1 in unit 2, 1 in unit 3, and 1 in unit 4. That's the easiest way to do it, okay? So that's how we have planned it in the past under the old syllabus, and that's what we will do with this one, all right? Now, the idea is that you need to find a news reporting, some form of article, all right? So whether that's from a newspaper like the Sydney Morning Herald, South China Morning Post, New Zealand Herald, the Malaysian Star, there's quite a range of them. And a lot of them are on, well, they're all online, I think, now. Okay, the Guardian newspaper, I think they're all online. And there are also news aggregator sites where you can go to the site and it will list all of the newspapers, right, that you can find online. Okay. It is possible to think about the journals, academic journals as well, although that's a bit harder. All right. And where it says the internet, I'd avoid that like the plague. Whatever that means, I'm not entirely sure. All right. That has not been made clear. Okay. But definitely there are enough newspapers online for you to be able to find an article. We don't want you coming up with anything from the TV or the radio. Radio, you listen to radio? I guess you do. If a student includes a relatively lengthy article, what you need to do is highlight the key sections of that article that you're going to be commenting on. All right, and here's one of the kickers is that it can't be older than a year. All right. So depending when you write it, so obviously you're going to be writing 3, all right? So the one that you're doing now, all right, can't be older than a year from when you write it now. You know? And then when we get to macroeconomics, okay, all right, going into end of the year, start of next year, at that point, okay, you are going to be thinking about a year from there. And then international trade or economic development, somewhere in there, that will be well into next year, so a year from there. Okay, so that's what we're thinking. Now that becomes, you know, that can become a bit of an issue, potentially. All right. The article on which the commentary is based should be in the same language as the commentary. All right, now that's, we want it to be in English. So if you're finding a source from Korea or Japan or China, wherever, and it's in a news article from there, all right, so long as you get a translation of the whole article, you can use it. All right. Students must select your own articles. I'm not technically allowed to give you an article. I mean, that would have been the old, you know, the old style was for me to say, here's your article, write it up. Right? I'm not supposed to give you the article. However, I can give you feedback on whether the article is appropriate or not. Okay. All right. Now this is new. Okay. Because in the new syllabus, we've got these things that are called key concepts or major themes, right? You need to use one of those themes within your commentary, right? And it's going to be fairly easy to do that because they're the major themes, they're the key concepts, okay? So you're going to use one of those in your IA, right? And you're going to reference it a few times within your IA. We're going to see how that works, all right? Now, if you don't do that, then obviously you're going to lose marks in the marking. So that's why they've included that. What is it that you're actually supposed to do? You're supposed to explain the links between the article, the concept, and economic theory from that unit of the syllabus, so the microeconomic unit that we're currently doing. This one becomes a bit more vague. Demonstrating economic insights, right? So thoughts into the implications of the article. Now, that's not you blogging. That's a different idea. This is actual academic understanding and interpreting of what's been said in the actual article itself, right? So you need to provide evidence, right, from the article, have a thought about what that means, discuss it, right? But you are very much considered an economist when you're writing it. Okay, that's kind of how it is. Right? Now, each commentary you need to have there's a bit of a set format to it. Okay, so the title of the article, the source of the article, the date the article was published, the date it was written, the word count, the unit of the syllabus to which it relates, the key concept being used, and all right. The idea here is that, because this is again a little bit complicated in a way, but also not. Right, is that I mark them, okay, but I mark each commentary individually, right? Then when you get all three, obviously they get marked, but there's an extra criteria that we're going to see that then gets added to the overall marks, okay? Now, I get asked this all the time, so I've got it here in bright yellow, right? These are not included in your word count, okay? Any acknowledgements that you do. Okay, obviously, all right. Any contents pages that you have, any diagrams that you use, being careful because the labels on your diagrams need to have 5 words or of 5 words or fewer. Okay, so you can't add extra text into your labeling. Headings on your diagrams need to be 10 words or fewer. Yeah. Tables of statistical data, you can put those in. Okay, if they are in your article and you want to comment on, they can go in. Equations, formula, and calculations, if they are needed, they can go in. And again, they don't count to your word count. Citations, now that's a bit tricky. Okay, you've got to be a bit careful with that. But if they use that inside your commentary, so if you're citing something, okay, then that's not counted. And references. So if you're referencing any other materials, then that's not counted in your word count, but it has to be in footnotes or endnotes. If you don't know how to do footnotes or endnotes, then you need to learn, okay, because that will be a very valuable thing for you to figure out. Right, it's only for referencing purposes, which means if you are trying to put extra information, right, that isn't referencing into your footnotes and endnotes, then that actually will be counted. Right, so do be aware of that. And there's another caveat with regards to your word count that I'll get to in a minute. Right, so what do we need? We need an article based on a different unit of the syllabus, except for Unit 1. Right, you find your own source. It needs to be contemporary. Okay. Here we go. This is the rubric, or this is how things are marked. Okay. So there are, as you see, 5 criteria. This is straight from the syllabus. You can look this up. You've got access to the syllabus. Right. Things that are going to be looked for here and the actual mark allocation here. Okay. So it's going to be diagrams that are used, the models that we use, the terminology or the language, the application and analysis. That gets a bit complicated, but that's in there now. Your key concept and the explanation of your key concept, and then your evaluation. Now, if you have a look at the marks and the range of marks, the total is 14. Okay, and you're going to, you know, why is it 14? You know, there are 3 of them, right? Each one is worth 14, and then there's another 3 marks that get added that are based on your word count, that are based on the articles that you use, that sort of an idea. That gets added. So you end up with a total mark for your IA of 45, or well, a mark out of 45. Now, if we have a look at the actual mark distribution, you can see the weightings. They're all relatively the same. This is different from the last syllabus. Terminology a little bit lighter, but overall they're all pretty much the same. They've actually put key concepts up to 3 marks, which means that a lot of, if you look at the percentages, right, so 3 marks out of 14, that's quite a bit based on that idea of the key concept. It does take a little bit away from the weighting of the evaluation here, but it's still 3 marks, so, right, and your diagrams as well. Right, so if you add together your application, your key concept, and your evaluation skill, right, that's 6 out of the 14. Right, so that's nearly half of all of your marks on these 3 criteria here. Right, so going through them, okay, on a case-by-case basis. Criterion A, the diagrams. By the way, this is exactly what we would do if we were in class, and yes, it would be a bit easier for me because I would be able to see you all and figure out, you know, that you were understanding, and if you had questions as we go through. Now, this is what the examiner uses, okay? So we do need to make sure that we understand this, right? The criterion assesses the degree, the extent to which you're able to construct and explain your diagrams. Now, zeros are never, you know, something that you should really consider, because that just means you haven't done it, okay? All right, so the reality is you're looking at a 1, 2, and a 3. So for diagrams, what I tend to say is you're always going to look at the, you know, the top end of the mark band, okay? So your diagrams need to be relevant, so that's in all 3, okay? So if you start deciding to draw something that just doesn't make any sense to the model that you're describing, then yeah, you're not going to get anything there. All right, your diagrams need to be accurate, okay, to get to here, so there can be mistakes in here. They need to be correctly labeled, and we're going to see that that can be a pain, okay? Right, and they need to have an explanation. So if we're looking again at that 3, it needs to be a full explanation, which means that you aren't missing anything. Right, there's no part of the diagram that you could have explained that you haven't. Now, again, there can be interpreting of a lot of this. It does tend to be, you know, you can see some vagaries occurring in there as well. I think that might be a bit vague. All right. Terminology, the language that you use, is it appropriate? All right. Now, so you get a couple of marks here. So again, the 0, only if you don't do it. But if we have a look at the 1 and the 2, under the 2, which is the highest mark, then the terminology is relevant. It's both got to be relevant. And it is used appropriately throughout the commentary. So not just included, but used appropriately. So you're not just randomly dropping words in left, right, and center, hoping to get a mark. They actually make sense where they're placed, and that they go all the way through the commentary. So you haven't gotten to the end and forgotten what the word externality means. All right. Application and analysis. Now this one, it used to be in the old syllabus, this was 2 separate criteria, application and analysis. Now they've combined the 2, right? So you're able to recognize, understand, apply, and analyze economic theory in the context of the article. So that's quite an important bit, the context of the article. Okay, again, 0, all right, 1, 2, and 3. So if you look at 3, relevant theory, so it's got to be something that is appropriate to what you're discussing, right? And that's across all 3 of them, all right? Applied to your article throughout the article, so you have to go all the way through your commentary, explaining and using the theory. And then you've got what's called effective economic analysis. And yes, I apologize, that is a bit vague, all right? What effective means as opposed to appropriate. All right, and to be perfectly honest, the thing that isn't listed in here, but is in here, is that idea of it being in the context of the article. So you're going to need to specifically refer to the article as you do this. Right? It can't be a case of, here's a diagram I saw in the textbook, I'm going to put it in and explain that. It's going to be, here's the model I'm using with the titles and the labels relating to the article, and my explanation refers back to the article and things that are happening in it. And hopefully you'll be able to see that in the exemplars. D, the key concept, right? The major theme. So if we have a look here, again, down to 3, key concept is identified. We've got to say what it is, and that the link to the article is fully explained. Again, it is a bit vague between partially explained and fully explained, but that's what we've got to work with. Okay. Now, identification you're going to see is really straightforward. All right. So you will easily be getting 1, 2, or 3. Right. It's this bit here that might be a bit of an issue. Evaluationing. Right. And it's your judgments. Right, and whether they are supported by reasoned argument. So if we go on down here again, 1, 2, and 3. Judgments are made, so you've got to make some decision as to whether this is a good thing or not, right? And it is supported by effective and balanced reasoning, right? So you've got to use your economic knowledge, you've got to use the article, you've got to have some balance, so you've got to say this is happening, but however this might happen, therefore, yeah, right? Excuse me. Right, so that's the home page, and that's right there on the page, so you can always go back to that one page and double check. Okay, now I've also put in here under learner guides, under that page, we're to do the updated learner guide, hopefully, he says. Is it there? Yes, it is. There it is. All right, so you can pull that out, and what's in there? There's a whole lot of me waffling, really. Okay, so portfolio's purpose. Now, let's see like that. Now, this is. I'm not sure I understand. This is here where there is a difference. The rest of the commentary, no difference with regards to HLSL. This is where the difference comes in, is the weighting. Now, this is again a change from the old syllabus where they were the same. I say they were the same, they're actually different now, right, because of the exam change, but essentially they were the same. For you, under the new syllabus, the standard level learners, you have a higher weighting on your IA than the higher level learners, because the higher level learners have got an extra paper, right? So their extra paper, paper 3, right, is going to account for that extra weighting that there is. So it is, you know, quite an important part. I mean, it's 1 in every 5 of your marks, or nearly 1 in every 3 for standard level learners. So it is a very important thing. It's also a really good practice. It's quite a good skill to be able to do this. Right, so that just explains what I'm going to do. Now, the key thing there is that when you do this, when you do your first submission, I'm going to give you some feedback on it. All right, I'm going to give you some written feedback, but I'm only allowed to do that once. All right, that's it. Then you make any and all changes you want. I can give you some, you know, sort of like, yeah, don't do that, all right? Or I don't like your spelling of this word, okay? But in general, it's then up to you. So I'm only going to be able to give you one lot of written feedback, which means, and some year 13 learners have discovered this, if next year you decide that you need to redo an entire commentary, I'm not going to be able to give you any more written feedback on it. This time that I give you written feedback, that's it. All right, there will be no more. Right, so about choosing an article, what to think about, completing an outline, right, so doing a plan, writing your first submission, submitting it, right, getting feedback on it, and then making some changes that you need, okay? All right, you're going to submit 3 of them to complete your portfolio, information about the article, etc. There's the breakdown. All right, there's the criteria again. All right, a little bit about how to write your criteria. I'm not supposed to use the word draft anymore. That's in the new syllabus. We're supposed to call them submissions, because draft sounds like it's a draft. Right, now, right, so there's, this one here, the word count. Right, so I had a whole list of things that weren't in your word count, right? Your word count, the maximum amount of words that you are allowed to use is 800. Now that's again a change from the old syllabus where it was only 750, but 800 words might sound like an awful lot, but remember you're going to have diagrams, you're going to need to explain, you're going to need to try and evaluate, and some of you are very good at writing and you're going to be wanting to wax lyrical and have these grand epics, right? I remember this current cohort of year 13s, when they submitted their first micro, one of the learners wrote 1,300 words and said, oops, right? And they had to get it down to 750, so they needed to lose nearly half of it, right? For your submission, if you're over 800 words by a bit, that's okay, because we can trim it down, right? But if you're turning it in, as said, over 1,000 words, then that's going to be a bit difficult, okay? So do watch that. I've given you a bit of an overview as to what to sort of think about in the different paragraphs. All right. So essentially what you're going to have is you're going to have an initial situation and then a change. And you're going to need to explain that, right? Include the relevant details, include quotes from the article, all right? Your evaluation is depth, okay? So we want balance, right? We want quotes from the article. We want, you know, this will happen, however, this might happen. We want that idea of evaluation, thinking about impact on stakeholders. We want thinking about alternative policies. We want, short and long-term effects. Right? All of those evaluative skills that you've seen in the handout before. Concluding paragraph, short and okay, reinforce your points. All right, and I've just put some info in there. All right, about those criterion again. Right, so the last criteria, as I said, there's that extra 3 marks. That's about the entire portfolio, right? So, and the key things to note with regards to this, it says, make sure you're not using the same article or the same key concept for different commentaries. Now, you're also not supposed to use the same source, okay? So if you use the South China Morning Post for one, you can't then use it again for the next, any of the next commentaries, okay? So do be careful about that. You're going to also need to be careful about that key concept, because again, once you use it once, you can't then use it again for any of the others. And for micro, that can become a bit of a problem, because a lot of the key concepts can actually apply to microeconomics, and we'll look at that. All right, so check the folder for exemplars. There's some helpful things in there too. Right, okay, back to the site. Now, under this tab, and this is what you're going to need to come back to soon, is exemplars, and these are exemplars purposefully written based on the new syllabus. All right, and showing you the format that's expected, all right, how they're all written up. Okay. what they look like. And you'll notice this is what I was meaning to you with regards to identification. So when you are identifying the major theme, right, you bold it, okay? You use the actual word and you make it in bold so that the examiner can very quickly see it. I know it sounds silly, but you get marks for it. So make sure you do it. Right, now. Okay, now in the, I've also got exemplars from the old syllabus as well. Now they're there just for you to see, and you can look through those absolutely by all means to give you more inspiration. But there's nothing in there that is particularly wrong necessarily. But remember, it's been applied on a different grade boundary and the like. Now I've got an extra tab here for extra resources and some videos. I haven't put anything in there yet. I will soon. Now on the exemplars side, okay, one of the things that I have posted into the classroom, I think this morning, I think it came through this morning, is a practice marking table. And what I'd like you to do, document, is to open that up. And then part of what we're going to be doing today is you're going to be looking at this one. Okay, this one here, the commentary one, on Ontario business groups want cap and trade program delay. Now, you don't need to know necessarily what cap and trade program is yet because we haven't really covered that, right? But I'm just wanting you to have a look at what they have done. Look at the format and see if you can use, right, the marking criteria on the home page. See if you can use all of that to actually mark it and see what you think this particular exemplar would get out of 14. All right? Okay, you can be as harsh as you like. You can find things, no, that's a problem. No, I wouldn't like to say that. No, I don't think they did that very well. Absolutely up to you. All right? Now, it's a shared doc. It's going to look, no, not like that. That's my one. It's a shared doc, so it will look, where's the side here? All right, I've got it over here. This one. All right, it's going to look like that. And you put your name in here, what mark you think it got out of 14, any comments that you have about it. Right? I really liked the way they did. I didn't like this. I thought, they could do this really well. I thought they could do this better because, and then any concerns that you might have, anything that's popped up, think, oh my word, how am I going to do that? Yeah. So that I can then see all of this and I can go, that's what you're worried about. All right. Now, if we were in class, this is what we would do, but I would actually physically give you the exemplar and you would sit there with pen and paper and do it. And then you can discuss with each other and all of that sort of an idea. All right, that's a very useful thing to do. So again, your name goes in there. I'm doing a class, son. Okay. You put your mark in here. Any comments that you want to make about the IA, and then any concerns that you might have about the IA itself, about what you need to do. Now, that again, I'm looking at you doing it for the cap and trade article. There are 2 other commentaries there that you're more than welcome to have a look at as well. All right, 2 other exemplars there that you can look at too. But that's the one I want you to have a go at. It's the cap and trade one. Now, I've also put in this. Right, this is popping up in the classroom as well, because this is something else I want you to work on. Okay, and you can start this today, right? Or this could be another day's activity. All right, you're going to put your name in here. What key concept are you thinking that you're going to be using? But the way to do that is to find the article first. So I'm wanting you to find an article, okay? And it's about anything, essentially anything in the microeconomic unit, okay? So we're looking at supply and demand and government intervention, essentially is what we're looking at. So anything along those lines, you find that, and then you're going to see what concept relates to that particular article, and you can put that in there. Now, it might be, and this is not a bad suggestion, that you have 2 or 3 articles, right, that you've found, and you put them in there. Okay, it's an idea. Yeah, so that if one I say no, you can't use that, okay, then you've still got some other articles, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to then add feedback to this doc, which says, no, this article you can't use that article. Yes, you can use this article, but have you thought about a different key concept? That sort of an idea. Right? Remember, if you use a key concept here, you can't then use that again for any other IA commentary that you do. All right? You're not allowed. Okay?
Mr. David?
Yeah?
When will the other IA commentaries be done?
You do them when we do the units. So when we do macro and when we do the external economy, the international economy.
All right, thank you.
Yep. So essentially, you're going to be looking at your commentary 2. You'll be doing some planning for it by the end of this year, academic year. You'll be doing your write-up for that over the summer break, potentially, and then submitting it into the new academic year. Your last one, which is about international economics, it gets submitted in November, right? Yeah, dependent on the calendar for the new year, somewhere around November. So to give you an example, the current cohort, they submitted theirs last week. So that's November. Yes, it is. So the end of November, all right? So that you've actually covered enough, all right?
And once we've finished one commentary, even though you're not allowed to give us feedback, we are allowed to still edit the past ones?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Until this time next year, then it all stops.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Mr. David?
Yeah.
Is there a list of key concepts that we could have?
Yeah, you should. I've got that already for you somewhere. Okay, let me jump in. No, hold on. Apologies. Excuse my messy desktop. Son, you're starting now to be a pain.
Sorry.
No, it's only here, it's already open. Yeah. All right. Right, whole lot of waffle and go all the way to the top. Say all the way to the top. Right, so in your syllabus, which you've got on the website, the one that says key concepts and the course, they're also listed elsewhere, but further up somewhere. Yeah, all right, that's them there. And then again in here, and then this is a full explanation of them. And they're also in a separate document, like poster form document that's in the site as well. So relatively straightforward. They're the major things. So scarcity, choice, efficiency, equity, which you've been discussing a bit of late, economic well-being, sustainability, change, interdependence, intervention. Yeah, because there's 9 of them, right? Now, I have my own opinions as to which theme, which concept would work best with which commentary, okay? Now, as I said, you do have to be careful because you can only use them once, all right? So if you have a look, you've got efficiency, you've got equity, you've got economic well-being, sustainability, and intervention. Now, you know, a lot of that can actually fit in microeconomics, including scarcity, yeah? But you don't necessarily want that, yeah? So if you're going to use efficiency, you can't then use it later, but you might instead want to use equity later, right? You might want to use economic well-being later, or sustainability, or you might want to use sustainability now, you know? Or intervention, but then if you use intervention now, you can't then again use it later. So you have to be a bit aware of that, because whatever you choose, that's it. All right. So they're in the syllabus. There is, as said, a poster form of them on the website. I think your unit, the introduction website, that one, that's in there. All right. along with the syllabus. Where am I now? Back here. Right. So that's what I'm wanting. Okay. Now I've set deadlines for these, but if there are problems with the deadlines, then you can talk to me about that. If you're having struggles finding articles, you can talk to me about that. I can't give you an article, right? Also, please be aware that those exemplars aren't meant for you to use them in your commentary. Yeah, you can't copy what they have done. It's not the thing. Yeah. Now the reason for doing this, so everybody sees what everybody else is planning. All right. Now I had this because if you're choosing an article and then somebody else chooses an article and then you both do exactly the same commentary submission, then yeah, we've got a problem. Okay. So there are 18 of you. Right, so there is a chance that some of you are going to try and pick the same topic. Right, so just be aware of that. Now, in theory, you can pick the same article as someone else, so long as you don't write exactly the same thing that they do. But remember, it's economics. It's actually very easy to write the same thing as someone else. Okay? There's only so many ways you can explain some of the concepts. Right? My first piece of advice is to have a different article from everybody else. All right, and equally, if you've then got the same article, you might have a different key concept. That way, you can differentiate your work from them. All right. Now, the suggested models you might be thinking about. What models might you want to include? Now, we've only really done a couple. All right, you've got your market model, you've got PPFs. Okay. Potentially, you could include those, all right? Well, you will. Any evaluative thoughts that you might thus far be thinking, just having briefly read the article? And again, this is all so that I can give you feedback on your planning. Because what is disheartening for learners, what they find quite difficult, is if they submit a submission, yeah. And I turn around and say, no, the whole thing's not right. Sorry. Yeah, 0 or 2, some ridiculously low number like that out of 14. Yeah, so this is why this is quite important, right? And I know it's an additional thing for you to do, and you've got all these other things that you're doing, and you're starting your preparations for EEs, and you've got IAs for other, I know all of that, yeah? But bite-sized chunk, have a go at it. I've given you a window of time to have a go at this. Now, I'm not wanting your submission. I'm going to stop sharing because it's starting to annoy me now. Here we go. I'm not wanting your submission to be submitted, all right, until we come back after Christmas. All right. So that time will be January, whatever the date is. Yeah. So that gives you, what is that, about a month and a half, 2 months, right, to actually write it up. And that's plenty of time. Yeah. In the past, I've given 2 weeks because that's realistically all you need. But I'm understanding that, this is a bit different. It's not like you're necessarily able just to roll into my classroom and say, is this okay? All right. I mean, we might be back at school next week. We haven't heard, we don't know, in which case we can have more discussions about this. All right. But that's what I'm looking at. Now, again, ideally, right, I could ask for it, the last day of term. And that would then give me the Christmas break to do the feedback on it, and then get it to you in January. And if you would prefer that, then that's what I will do. Right? I thought it would be easier because of all of this for you to have that extra time over the Christmas break as well. All right? And because of the distance thing, it's a bit more tricky. Now, the feedback will be individual. All right? So again, I will need to run through that individually with you, but you will get a copy of the written feedback. All right, and that way you will have a record of it, so you can then go back and check and make any changes that you might need. You might not need to make any changes at all. I might say brilliant, outstanding, fantastic, leave it. All right. Okay, now I'm going to stop talking now because you've got a couple of things that you need to be working on. You've got the marking, the practice marking to have a go at, right? And that's going to take you probably 20 minutes, I would suggest, going through that and putting in your thoughts. And then if you want to also start the process of that planning document, you can start your work on that as well. Please also go back and have a look at the material we've been covering, review the key concepts and the models. That will be quite useful then when you're thinking about which article to pick. Finding the article is going to take time. Don't just think you're going to be able to, I mean, I can rather quickly find articles, but don't just think for you, you know, I mean, you might just stumble across one, yeah? But for a lot of learners, it takes a while, okay? And to find the right article, yeah? Don't pick anything from The Economist. Do not, that's a big no-no. Okay, the idea is that you are supposed to be doing the explaining, not anybody else, all right? So therefore, you have to explain what's going on in the article, right? So you don't pick something that's already explained everything that there is. Okay, is there any particular questions about that?
Yeah, do you have any advice on how to pick an article and what to look for?
Yes.
Are you allowed to tell us?
Well, it's a little bit more difficult now. The new syllabus has made it a bit more general, right? So it's now microeconomics. Now, in the past, what I have said, okay, now, all right, is pick a tax, okay? Pick, the government is putting a tax on cigarettes, the government is putting a tax on petrol, the government is putting a tax on alcohol, the government is, yeah, right? Because then it's a very straightforward model to do, to show the change of. It's a very simple, it's a more straightforward explanation than some others, yeah? And it's quite straightforward to add in alternative possible policies. And in the past, that's what we would say, yeah? However, now you're also trying to link it to the main concept, the main theme. So in order to do that, you've got to then think which, if I do that, what am I actually going to be talking about? Yeah? Is it about efficiency? Is it about intervention? All right? In which case, if it's intervention, then that means I can't use intervention again for my macro, and I might want to. You know? If it's about efficiency, you know, so you do. That's why it's a bit more complicated. But I was going to say the easiest. The most straightforward approach, the keep it simple approach, right, is find a tax, an article on a tax on a product that's a demerit good that the government wants to reduce. Yeah, that's more straightforward. The article that's in your exemplar is difficult because it's about cap and trade model, right, which is quite complicated to explain at the least. Yeah. Last year, one of the year 12s picked, and they have regretted it, even though I continually told them, don't use this article, pick something else. They picked regulations on pet owners. All right. But yes, you can do that because there are lots of government regulations that you could pick as well. You know? Any of those market failures that we looked at, information failures, you know, you could pick that. There's antitrust laws, court cases going on about the tech industry. So you could, in theory, pick, monopoly market structures as a market failure. They are harder to do, particularly harder to do in 800 words. All right. So you want to try and keep it simple, but you're also wanting to show your knowledge, and that's the hard part. But yeah, as I say, the keep it simple approach, find a tax on a demerit good and explain it. Yeah?
All right, thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? Okay, now I am recording this meet, and I will post this in case you want to go back and see what it was I said, right, when you're doing your planning, etc. But your main task, as said, the practice marking, right, and you will see what everybody else thinks, and that's quite an interesting thing to see as well. And they might have marked really hard, and you might have marked really easy, and vice versa. I can tell you what, when you do it, right, next time we meet, I'll have a look, see if you've done that task, and I will tell you what I thought of it, and I will tell you what the chief examiner thought. Okay, now I've marked these things before. When I say I've marked these things, I've marked the old syllabus IAs, all right, lots of them, yeah, and yeah, these are different, okay, slightly, all right, but it is quite interesting as an exercise, and it's a good way for you to see the structure and what we're actually after, all right. Okay, otherwise, if there's no further questions, as we'd say in the land of my birth, he kōnera, which means goodbye for now.
Actually, Mr. David, I've got one
Yep.
last question.
Sure.
So once we start planning what article we want to do, like on the planning doc, what we find and we do, we plan our article and stuff, and we find a key concept to do with that article.
Yes.
Do we need a green light from you to say, okay, that's a good key concept for that article, or do we just start writing it?
You can just start writing it if you want, but you do run the risk that I might say to you, yeah, all right.
Or we should wait for you to say that's a good thing, and you'll do.
I will comment on every single one. Yeah,
right.
And the planning document, I will put a comment. The comment boxes.
Right. Yeah.
I'll put a comment box down there every single. If it's in there, I'll put a comment on it.
Okay.
All right. And it might be a simple that just says something like "good, go for it," or it might be choose a different article, or it might be this is difficult to evaluate, or it might be careful with that major concept. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sort of an idea. It won't be huge information. It'll just be yes, go ahead, or no, choose something else. Usually it's the go ahead or no, choose something else.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No problem.
And so for the audience of our commentary, do we write it in economic language, more of economic language, or more of explanatory language, so definitions and simple stuff?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question. Well done for asking. The rule is that you're supposed to be writing it as if you're writing it to explain the economics to a non-economist. So as if you're explaining it to one of your IB peers, right? You're explaining the economics to one of them, right? One of your friends in the IB world who isn't taking economics, yeah? I'm assuming you have those, yeah? Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. So yes, there are elements of I should define these terms, but you don't want to eat up all of your 800 words with definitions, yeah? Okay, so the rule of thumb, which is a horrible expression, is if you're going to define terms, stick to 2 to 3, okay? And then you'll just be using the terms as you go through, all right? So you're going to find the major terms that you need and just use those as you go through. Yep.
And are we allowed to ask you questions throughout the whole process of writing, or is it not allowed?
Yeah, you can ask questions. It's just a little bit tricky as to what I can answer, but you can always ask questions. Absolutely. If you were to come to me and say, would I get 3 out of 3 for this section for this? I can't tell you that. Yeah. But
could you blink?
Could I?
Blink twice for yes, and then just don't blink for no.
No. No.
Oh wait, this is being recorded.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you things like, no, that's the wrong model to use. All right, that's absolutely fine to do. The thing that I can't do is I can't give you written feedback more than once. All right, that's a no-no. All right, and your written feedback is around the mark scheme. Yeah, that's what that's all about. Okay, so it will be in criterion A, how well did you do? Why did you, in criterion B, that's what the written feedback is. But I can only do that once. Really don't want to do it more than once.
That means you can give us verbal feedback more than once.
Yes.
So you can tell us that the model is wrong, but can you tell us like why the model is wrong?
Not easily, no.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, for this particular commentary for your micro, you've got one model. Okay, so it's not going to be hard. It's just how you choose to use the model. Okay, I might then need to say no. Yeah.
Oh, and for the models, are we supposed to like draw and make them ourselves, or can we just take them from the article or just like internet?
They need to be done by you, yes. Now, in the real one, the final submission that you do, I mean, in the chief examiner feedback from the old syllabus, one of the things that they say is that hand-drawn and then photographed and added in is usually better, but 99.9% of people just use like the drawing program in Google and draw them. Yeah. So, yeah. But that takes longer, right? Because in the past, remember, it all used to be handwritten in the past, right? You used to actually do it on pen and paper, everything. And then I used to have to photocopy it. And I'm that old, right? And then I had to physically mail it through the post to the IB. Yeah, that's what used to happen. But now it's all on the computer and it's all electronically submitted. And when we get there to the final submission-y stuff, you're going to see one or two other weird quirkinesses of this whole system, which are based around the idea that when they first started doing this, it was all pen and paper. I like the fact that it's digital now, because I don't have to have, stacks of paper sitting in my classroom, right? Because honestly, I used to have whole folders of the things, yeah? Because it would be first submission, final submission, and then I would need a copy, right? Because then first submission with my feedback, and then final without my feedback, right? And that's for each commentary for every single learner, right? And I would need to have them multiple years worth of them. So, and if I was still doing that, remember I've been doing this now nearly 20 years. So that would be an entire room full of paper. I don't want that. Yeah?
Mr. David, does it matter what referencing we use? Like what format?
Yeah, that again, that came up in the teacher forums that we have been in, and I've been in, and also it came up on the course that I'm doing, the online thing. No, so long as you are consistent, all right? Now, the school has a set format. What is it, MLA?
I thought they used Harvard nowadays.
Whatever the school's format is, yeah? If you stick to that. So if you're using that for everything else, just use it for this as well. No, there is no set, you must use MLA, you must use Harvard, you must use, I don't know, whatever the other ones are, right?
And so for the structure, we're supposed to put the article into the document, right?
Yeah, that would be good.
But what if it's like 20 pages long?
Try not to have one that's 20 pages long. If it's 20 pages long, chances are they've done a lot of the explaining for you. If it's 20 pages long, there's probably a whole lot of stuff that you don't need to explain. And so, yeah.
It's too late. I'll go to grocery shopping.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then you'll have to, when you're done with this, you'll have to go to school and price it.
Okay.
Because somebody needs to be
Yeah.
here to
Understand.
afterwards.
Understand. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that was why we had that idea about the highlighting the key sections within it. And if you need those sections, that's what you then refer to. All right.
Mr. David,
Yeah.
if we like are aiming for a 7 and for our final grade, if we get a 6 in our IA, is it possible to still achieve a 7, or do we have to get like perfect exam scores? Like, what type of weighting with grades should we be looking at?
Well, remember everything is weighted, yeah? So if you're HL, then it's, what did I say, 20%? 20% of your total mark comes from your IAs, yeah? So out of 45, right, 20% of that goes to your total, yeah? To get for the total, I mean, every year it's slightly different, but when you add paper, because you're HL, paper 1, paper 2, paper 3, IA, yeah? So 4 assessments with obviously different weightings. You add them all up and then you work out the percentage, right, out of 100, obviously it's percentage. And if it's over 70, some years 74, some years 75, some years 77, some years 78, depending on the year. And again, that's the old syllabus. Then, yeah, you're likely to get a 7.
We're the first year of the new syllabus, right?
Yes, indeed.
Does that mean that the grade boundaries are lowered? Because usually they lower grade boundaries for new syllabuses.
It means that they haven't really got a clear picture as to what the grade boundaries will be yet. But what they will be doing is they'll be looking at the old syllabus and their grade boundaries as a base. Okay. The pathway ones that I used for you guys, right? Those ones which are in that pathway document that you have, the pathway planner, right? That grade boundary, right? They'll use that as a template and then see if they need to make adjustments to it. Yeah, but you don't know the grade boundaries necessarily always ahead of time, particularly with a new syllabus. They may actually, you may not know it until after the fact.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right, so if you can work to that, that would be brilliant. And if you have any questions, email me. Thank you. See you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. David. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, sir.
You too. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. David. Have a good day.
Bye.
You too. See you.
Sir, I posted a question in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't often see the chat.
Yeah, then I'll just say it. So for the exemplar marking practice,
Yeah.
there are actually like 2 commentary ones on the website.
Yeah.
So are we doing the one that you talked about, the cap and trade one?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, just to check.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. You all right, Sariha? Okay, I'll close out the meeting.